Now I'm gonna upload this first before I go with the other one, which I'm sure y'all want to notice. Hello guys, Robert here. Welcome back to another video. And I really want to do this on my fucking bed because of the fact that if I move my laptop, it's gonna start buzzing again. I don't want to deal with that shit because plus I just have better lighting over here because of my fucking light bulb. So yeah, hello guys, Robert here. Welcome back to another video, and I really want to make this one video because I'm such a huge fan of this franchise, Resident Evil. Like right now, I'm going to be starting making playlists of Mass Effect discussions, Resident Evil discussions, Dragon Age discussions, maybe Full Metal Alchemist discussions, you know, series in general discussions, okay? And I'm going to be making those playlists, and I'm going to be making these videos. Now I'm starting this trend on my channel with your boy talking about one of my favorite franchises since I was just like 10 fucking years old, Resident Evil. Resident Evil is one of my favorite series, and one of the most iconic video game villains resides in that series. No, it's not Nemesis. No, it's not the cool tyrant. And no, I'm not talking about fucking Mr. X. I'm talking about Albert Wesker. Now, the title of the video should already be explained to you. I don't want Albert Wesker to come back. Albert Wesker should not return. Now, in terms of story, Resident Evil hasn't always really been the best in terms of storytelling and character development, though there are like slightly hints that you can kind of like poke at, because there have been people that have kind of like analyzed on how things are with these characters and story and stuff, and I was just like, damn, like y'all can really get that down with it. Like maybe this is a freaking awesome masterpiece in terms of storytelling, in terms of, well, visually or some sort of way. Like, I've seen people go out of their way, and it's interesting to see those point of views. But anyway, Albert Wesker should not come back. I know he's a popular villain, and I know people are like, oh my god, but what about him in Umbrella Corps, where you can hear his voice actor, like, with his Albert Wesker voice. One, that was a fucking Easter egg, and two, he just fucking died. Now, the reason why is that, love or hate Resident Evil 5, which I do own for my Xbox One, by the way. Resident Evil 5 was pretty much the conclusion to the storyline that started all the way back in the first Resident Evil. The two main protagonists, Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine. Those two started the franchise together, and it was such a great start to the franchise, even though it was more comedic because the voice acting. If you play the remake and then went on to Resident Evil 2, okay, fine. But what I need to say is that Albert Wesker should not come back because his story is concluded by RE5. And if they somehow bring him back because of the backlash that people had about Jake and the story of 6, which was and the fucking gameplay of how Resident Evil 6 was in general, how people feel about that. Like, if Capcom, I don't want that to happen. I still want them to continue the Jake route. Like, maybe not in a mainline game, more like continue his story in the Revelations games, to where people, because they did Resident Evil 6 for a reason, like, and even like and plus they can't just cut that off of the canon, because let's be real about this, Resident Evil 6, a bunch of shit happened, especially near the end of the game, and those events had to have inspired the Blue Umbrella stuff. It had to, because the events of Resident Evil 6 was significant, bigger. So that's why I want to draw upon is that Resident Evil doesn't need Wesker. Unless it's a prequel before the events of 5, you can bring him back, but don't do it afterwards, because the story ended in 5. The story of Chris and Jill started in the very first Resident Evil, in both the original and the remake. And so was Wesker when it comes to all his diabolical plans. And Wesker, and it finally came to a head when, during the Lost in Nightmares, which is pretty much like the prologue to Resident Evil 5. Because like I said, I got Resident Evil 5 on disc for my console, so I pretty much got all the DLCs. So that means you can pretty much play Lost in Nightmares before you even start the main game, which makes a lot of sense. Like I said, it was the end of that storyline. It was meant to be the ending of Wesker. Wesker was even in the fucking trailers. Wesker was in the trailers, and they were going to do like a final confrontation thing. They had to have. Because at this point, the franchise has gone on so long that some's probably going to have the end. And it was a bold move to kill off Wesker, because he was the main villain of this game, the main antagonist. They finally brought him down, and they're going to continue forward with this ever-evolving world. And that's what I'm really interested in, that Resident Evil is always somewhat changing in terms of the world and the characters and what's really happening around, which I've always been interested in, because like Resident Evil 4 introduced that post Raccoon City era, and Resident Evil 5, where that done, bro. Resident Evil 6 introduced that there were gonna be bigger things to come, and Resident Evil 7, I feel like it was also doing the same thing, but even though that was more of an individual story, though introducing Blue Umbrella at the end was really interesting. But back to Albert Wesker, because killing him off was a really bold move, but I thought it was necessary, because what else can you do with him? He was a badass in Code Veronica when you finally found out that this guy fucking survived. Hell, the canon ending is that if you play the Umbrella Chronicles, the canon ending for Wesker is him getting fucking impaled by the tyrant and getting killed, presumably to be dead. But also in Umbrella Chronicles, they introduced on how he really survived, and he also worked with Chris and Jill to take down Umbrella, which was the exclusive story point in the timeline that was never explored until Umbrella Chronicles came out. It took place years after the events of Resident Evil Code Veronica, the last main game of the series, and a year before Resident Evil 4. And after that, he was kind of doing his own thing, doing his own shit, while Ada Wong was doing his fucking dirty work, because even Leon says, like, oh, you work for Wesker. Makes sense. Like I was saying, Wesker's story ended in Resident Evil 5, and it should stay that way, because they concluded the story for a reason. And if they bring him back in a future entry, like revealing that, oh, that was a clone, or this is a clone of Wesker that he made, which, by the way, doesn't make any fucking sense that on why Wesker would do that. Because think about it. Wesker's character, he always viewed himself as a god, and why would he make a clone of himself? He wouldn't, because he knows, because again, he worked for Umbrella. He was like one of the top scientists, okay? And he would know that cloning yourself is not going to always guarantee a fucking replica just in case your shit failed. And more than likely, in knowing Wesker, he knows damn well that they can't copy perfection, like how he feels like he's perfection, because he views himself as a god, especially like in Resident Evil 5 when his plans are coming into fruition and everything else. He's always viewed himself like that when he was going through his plans by the time his body adapted to the virus he implanted himself during the events of Resident Evil 1. It just wouldn't make any sense if it was like a clone or Wesker somehow survived, because again, it would nullify why Resident Evil 5 was made in terms of the story and why it even fucking exists. Because Resident Evil 5, the events that take place are because of Wesker, and taking them down was the main point, and also an interesting end to one of the series' best characters. And so I thought it was an amazing and also pretty bold move that they killed him off. But what bothers me is that people want him to come back and pretty much nullify what happened in Resident Evil 5 fucking pointless. But in Resident Evil 5 was a step forward for the franchise to see where else it was going to go afterwards. What was next for Chris? Because I thought his story in Resident Evil 6 was somewhat interesting. Because because he at that point he's been in the BSAA for years, and just at that point, like Chris, he's getting old and better and starting to lose people and everything else, all that stuff. And I kind of found a story somewhat engaging, a little bit interesting, and that's why I really kind of liked about him in 6. So I'm glad that Capcom was going with that route, because again, what else can you do after Wesker? Because that's what I'm interested. What can you do after taking out one of the main antagonists of the whole fucking series? That is a direction I want to see them take. I want to see them, like, maybe in Revelations 3, we get Jake again, exploring more about, who, and why Wesker really conceived him. Because Wesker conceived Jake before the events of Resident Evil 1, because Jake is around 20 fucking years old. And again, it's what makes it interesting, because you don't know exactly what's going to happen next. Like, what if they end up killing off Leon in the next game? Where's the series going to go from there? Like, it's interesting where series can go after making a crucial decision at the end of a mainline game. Like, if you want to end the Resident Evil franchise with 5 because of the fact that it began with Chris and Jill, and with Wesker as being the main antagonist, and given the fact that and you do all that in terms of like playing all the games from the timeline and reach all the way up to Resident Evil 5 and ending the series right there, I honestly feel like that wouldn't be a bad ending for certain people for the franchise to them. Just being honest, it wouldn't really be a bad ending for certain fans if you want to do that. Like the other games are kind of irrelevant to me, because it's kind of like, you can kind of see it like, oh, they're just milking it, blah 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 blah. And just play the games from the timeline from the very first game around when that happened, and to the timeline of Resident Evil 5. I can see someone just ending the series right there, because that is a pretty damn good ending. I mean, Leon's doing good, and like Claire and Barry at that point are doing good, and all this stuff, the BSAA, and work with Terrasig, because we find out in Revelations 2. And by the time we're in Resident Evil 6, Sherry is doing good, so at that point you kind of know what she was doing. So at that point you kind of make your own headcanon that that's the end of the series. And I don't really blame people for that. But bringing back Wesker, it would just be such a desperate move to just win back your fans in some way, shape, or form, to keep them invested in it, when really it's not. It's just nullifying the existence of one of the major games. Don't bring back Wesker, because his story was perfectly concluded, and they brought in Jake for a reason. Now what are Capcom's plans for Jake in the future? He's probably, like, I feel like Resident Evil 6 was going to be the origin to his character, and what's he going to do next. And given the fact that Resident Evil 6 bombed, I'm really hoping they continue the story in Revelations 3, because they have to have some sort of plans for him, because they can't just up and forget about him. They built him up in Resident Evil 6. And I can guarantee you, that was just his origin. They were obviously going to do more with his character. And I'm hoping they do more with him, because there's a future to probably be the end game of the series. Because we still got Natalia, who's probably possessed by Alex still, even in the good ending of Revelations 2. So yeah, I just don't know at this point. Still, if you're going to bring back a villain, do not bring back Wesker, okay? Hell, don't even bring back any villains, because I feel like their stories were just good. Like Alexia Ashford, like those Ashfords from Code Veronica, those stories were pretty damn good and had good endings. Just don't bring back Wesker just because he's a popular character. His story was concluded in 5, and should stay that way in terms of the story and continuity of the series. Don't pull some dumbass comic book shit. Anyway, that's just my thoughts. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like the video if y'all enjoyed, subscribe if you want to see more. Comment below what y'all think. If any of y'all are new to the channel, if you want to see more, be sure to subscribe for more. I hope you guys enjoyed it. See you guys in the next video. I'll be uploading another episode of Dragon Age Origins, right, like probably a couple days after I upload this and the other video, Survivor Route. Please don't bring back Wesker. It just, that'd just be a dumb move.